Bobby, you began playing trumpet, obviously, like all of us, about sixth grade. And
Sixth grade.
I'm sure for you, a golden trumpet just fell from the sky,
No.
and you were just amazing. And that's not how it went. Would you tell me a little bit about how did you start out on trumpet?
My attempt was to start out on trumpet. I couldn't get anything out of it. I love this. I love the sound of it. I love the way it made me feel when the marching band came by. But I couldn't get anything out of it. So I was discouraged, and the band director, when I was trying to get into band in junior sixth grade, handed me a baritone. And I still want to play, but that wasn't what I wanted to play. So I played that for a while.
Insert baritone joke here.
So I played baritone for half the year, semester. And then I moved over to trombone, which was my teacher's instrument. And that summer, I had a buddy who was a couple years older than me, sold me a trumpet for $5. And I just practiced, and I came back in summer band. And right away, I didn't have to go back to beginner. I started in the concert band, which was, you had the beginning, the intermediate, and the concert band. So I jumped ahead. And it was not on ability, it was just because I pushed real hard, because I am not naturally talented at all. So, anyway.
So after you played obviously through high school, and he went to the famous Indiana University for music, and then I'm sure trumpet came together.
No.
No. Oh, what happened then? Well, did you start out as a music major?
I didn't start. I started out as a music education major, but I actually was not accepted into the music program. I got into the school academically, but not on music. I was still struggling. So one of my favorite parts of this story is always the Mr. Bill Adams story, where you wanted to study. Bill Adams is the trumpet teacher of all trumpet teachers. Like, everybody refers to him. Chris Bodie studied with him. Jerry Hayes studied with him. Jerry Hayes is the trumpet you hear on all the Michael Jackson records ever. He wrote the parts and then played the parts. Larry Hall, Charlie Davis, they all studied with Mr. Bill Adams. And so Bobby wanted to study with Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, yeah.
And how did that go?
It didn't go well at all. So at the time, his studio was full. He had as many students as the university would allow him to carry, and as much as he could teach. So, but basically, I pestered him. So I'd knock on the door, Mr. Adam, I got a question about you. He was, Bob Burns, listen, come back next week, we'll talk. Next day, Mr. Adam, I got a question about something on the trumpet. This went on for a year. I'm serious. I knocked on his door, I pestered him, and he said, Bobby, I'll take you as a trumpet student if you do what I say. You got a lot of work to do. And I said, I'm willing to do anything what it takes. I want to play the horn. And so finally he let me in his studio, and that's sort of kicked me off, got me going.
So in there you had a bout with Bell's palsy.
Yeah, in '79 I did. I was working. I took a year or two off. 2 years off from school to make some money. I worked at the Vincent Bach factory. They produced trumpets, all saxes, all the woodwind instruments. And during that time, I got Bell's palsy. And if you don't know what Bell's palsy is, basically mimics a stroke, but it's a nerve in your face, and basically one side drooped, and basically I couldn't play. So I had to learn to replay again. At that point, I was starting to play pretty well. I'm thinking my career is going to be going. I'm going to go back to school, get my degree, but I couldn't play. Literally could not play at all. So the emotional part for me was, at this point, was, can I start over? Do I want to start over? And I just had to step back and say, I'm going to do what it takes to start all over. But it was probably one of the most difficult times, trying to figure out, something you love and cherish, and it's just taken from you. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to come back. Sometimes it doesn't go away, but
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't go away all the way, right? I always find this part of the story interesting to me as a musician. We all kind of straddle this cliff a little bit of like, how long can I keep doing this? You know, like, how long will it pay the bills? How long can I continue to do? And sometimes that cliff, you know, you kind of you get something that takes you down, a Bell's palsy thing or something that all your gigs cancel for a year because a freak virus comes through or something. And you're on that ledge just all the time going, you know, how long can I stay persistent at this? And I'd say all of us have been fortunate to continue to do what we've been able to do, but that persistency has been, and it's always just for me, always on that ledge of like, am I going to, even if I fell down, could I climb back out? So you finished college in Indiana and moved to Los Angeles, and then Earth, Wind, and Fire called the next day?
No.
Oh, that's okay. All right. I love this part too because you moved to LA. You worked a couple of jobs.
Worked a lot of different jobs.
A lot of different jobs, right? A lot of different jobs. One of them was you worked in hospital collections.
I worked in the collections department of a hospital.
That's got to be fun.
I hated it. It was the worst job.
You worked at a JCPenney's.
Yeah, I worked in the telecommunication part for JCPenney's. I made reservations for People Express, Air, Braniff, Frontier, all these fun things.
And then finally worked in pest control for a while.
Yeah, I was exterminator for 5 years.
And this is like a common story at UNT. You hear you go to LA and then you're going to be a pest control exterminator for 9 to 5. And if you're lucky, you'll play gigs at night. You know, it's kind of a...
You know, you got to pay the bills.
You got to pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
Yeah. We heard that a lot over there.
Mom and Dad are not going to take care of you forever.
There you go. There you go. But your first playing job...
My real first playing job was Disney World, college All-American band. That was actually my first really professional gig, where I thought, man, I made the big cut. You know, they auditioned 3,000 kids from all over the university, all over the country to play at the Disneyland or Disney World. So I ended up at Disney World for that summer.
But I like the other job, the one after this one.
Which one?
The one in Reno.
The one, oh. Okay, my actual first professional job in L.A., once I moved to L.A., was I had played for a topless ice show in Reno. It was called Razzle Dazzle, of all things. so I played for about a month or two, and it was at the Hilton.
Sammy Davis Jr. came through.
Yeah. So they would insert famous artists in between the show. Somehow, while these dancers were dancing, when I was there, Jim Nabors was one of the singers. So every month, or they would insert somebody else inside the show.
So long story short, you did the topless ice show for about a month.
About 2 months.
About 2 months. Yeah. Ended up back in LA and started freelancing. And,
I started freelancing.
So I get to do a little bit of name dropping because as I hear the story, these are like some of my favorite groups that I always wanted to play for. He got to back up the Temptations, the Four Tops. He said Don Rickles picked on him once, I guess, as a feather in your cap. Joan Rivers, Jerry Lewis, Carol Channing on a musical, I believe.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis.
Jerry Lewis.
Ray Charles.
Yeah. And can you tell me about how the Earth, Wind, and Fire gig finally called?
What's interesting, Earth, Wind, and Fire, the pool of people are sort of small when it comes to playing that particular book. And the trumpet player that I replaced, he got Bell's palsy. And this was his second time with it. He had it in the early 80s, but this time he got it around 2002, 2003, and he never got over it. So they were going to do, Earth, Wind, Fire got called to do they were doing the Grammys along with the Black Eyed Peas. They had put the trumpet part on a hard drive, hoping he would be able to come. They were hoping he would heal. It didn't work out for him. So I got called to do the overdubs. And Ray told me he was also the MD, associate MD, and he was also the orchestrator for the ensemble. So he said, "You're probably going to get a call for an audition for Earth, Wind, and Fire. yeah, right. But it did happen. I did get a call about 3 months later, and sort of.
And that was it. And would you describe some of the places you've got to play with Earth, Wind, and Fire? Or we saw the...
I played all around the world. I mean, I've probably been in 50, 60 countries. So, but, some of the things you saw there, I think we did the Nobel Peace Prize. We played President Obama said Earth, Wind, and Fire was his favorite group, so we played at the White House.
A couple of times, I think, right?
A couple of times, yeah, yeah. So, and we played in Madison Square Garden. We've played. So we went out on tour, which it was Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago, both bands together. We did that for 3 or 4 tours. So we've covered a lot of bases, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So my part to the story is obviously he's had, as a trumpet player, the amazing experiences that I wanted to have, I would like to have as a trumpet player. And so when you're going through college, you're thinking, man, when I get out, if I could have some of these amazing experiences, it would be great. And he's had all these experiences, which is amazing to me. Like I said, I get to study with their trumpet player from Earth, Wind, and Fire, my childhood dream. And what really turned around for me, or what really kind of took off for me, was when I started taking lessons. One of the first things I can remember is we started practicing, and he never started like a clock, like, oh, your 60-minute lesson starts now, And then he never did that. Sometimes we would play for 2, 3 hours at a time, and of course I would ask him about life on the road and everything, and then trumpet questions that I was dealing with. But you never started a clock or made it seem like, okay, here's your 60 minutes, like.
I felt like I had to get to know the student. It was not just about, for me, it was not about the money. It was more about trying to help somebody out, trying to pass it along, and Brad was a good guy.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I just wanted to help him as much as possible. And so when I scheduled students, I scheduled 1 or 2 a day, because I didn't want the clock to weigh in. If they had problems or things they wanted to talk about, I wanted to leave time for them to convey that. Because you can't get inside and teach someone a skill sometimes without knowing what's going on in their life.
So there was a time, probably again like we all go through at some point in college, where the money got a little thin. Didn't have a lot of money, and I was studying with Bobby outside of the school, so the school fees didn't cover any of the lessons. I was paying for the lessons, and I couldn't afford the lessons. And so many times he would just, Brad, don't worry about it. Just come on down and play. And he lived in Fort Worth at the time. Of course, I lived in Denton. And when I couldn't afford the lessons, he would just say, "Come on down, come on, let's work this out." And I'd help him out in the yard or anything that I could do to help out. But again, it really meant a lot to me that
Well, you meant a lot to me.
that the trumpet player from Earth, Wind, and Fire, who had no reason to take the time to slow down for me. He's played all the most fantastic places. I'm a trumpet player from nowhere. Took the time and stopped for me and stayed persistent with me. And that's my story. Please give him a round of applause.